This is John's House, a daily place for real conversation about Frederick. From the decisions that affect your neighborhood to the events, nonprofits, restaurants, and local leaders that make this community move. Local, regional, national, and always connected to home. Come on in. John's House starts now.
We are live on a Monday. The sun is shining. Teachers are going back to school. The kids are almost ready to go back. It is almost fall, and it's scary to say that. You know, we're now in the middle of August, and you'd expect it to be, and we're thankful that it's not, 95 degrees and 95% humidity this time of year. But again, weather, pretty nice today, and we'll take advantage of that. I've got some important things to talk about a little bit later on the show when it comes to your taxes. But I want to kick off the show with something a little bit more fun and important. I have Bryan from the Frederick Card Collective here in Studio 401 this morning. And I love talking about when a new store is having a grand opening, because that means business is growing in the area. How are you, Bryan?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing
Thank you
well.
for having me back on.
Yeah, well, you had been on Frederick Sports because, we talked a little bit about the Sports Card Collective type thing on that show. But now, this is about you opening a new business. And we've been kind of following your journey on social media, which I think is a cool way that you've handled things, kind of talking about when you first got the space on Market Street and to the growth where you now are about to open the doors. Maybe tell me about that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So, we were on a couple months ago and, obviously there was right in the middle of the thick of trying to get everything together. But, it kind of reflect back, like it's only been since June that we even took possession of the space there at 16 North Market. So in the grand scheme of things, like the stores come together pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's obviously, renovating an older building or freshening up an older building has its pain points from time to time, but the vision has come together and the store looks amazing. It looks completely different than the last retail store that was in there. So it's all come together. We're super happy with the way that it turned out, and we're super excited to get everybody in there officially on Saturday after our grand opening.
Now, wasn't that like a vape shop before or something like that? I mean, we could deal with one less vape shop and one more fun store.
Yeah, it was Charm City Hemp was in there before.
Okay.
So they're different retail space, but completely gutted the interior. We got, fixed the walls, new paint, new flooring, new fixtures. It's just a completely different. You probably, if you were in the other store, you'd walk in and you'd be like, this doesn't even look like the other place. So
exactly. And I drive by that area almost every day to go visit, potential sponsors and current sponsors and to shop. I mean, I love downtown Frederick. It's awesome. And I've noticed the last week or so, you guys had the Pokemon figures out by the window. So little kids like stopping and looking in the window with their parents, trying to figure out what's going on. That front window is about all I've seen. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, we have some giant 3D printed Pokemon figures in the window. Those are definitely an eye catcher and definitely stop people dead in their tracks on the sidewalk. Everybody's loving it. I'm watching the people take pictures and selfies with them through the glass. So we're working on some more decoration for the window. But if you guys have watched the videos, the update videos, the last ones, you can see that the interior space is bright and clean and stocked up and ready for opening.
And that's awesome as well. So let's talk a little bit about it. Back in my day when I was growing up, I'm a little older than you. All right, a lot. But, it was baseball and football cards. There really wasn't much else. Occasionally you'd see hockey cards, maybe NBA cards, but that was really all there was. And kids, we didn't know what to do with them then.
Right.
People collected them and, okay, need them, got them. I got this one. I need that one. Whether or not you ate the gum, that nasty stuff, that's another story. But now there are so many different types of cards covering not only sports, but pretty much everything else out there.
Yeah, there's pretty much a collectible or trading card for anything and everything. K-pop Demon Hunters, SpongeBob SquarePants, Disney Lorcana, baseball, football, hockey, golf. I mean, pretty much there's definitely stuff out there for everybody, which I think is a good thing. That it's not just like, oh, I have to like baseball or football anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's been the expansion of, the Pokemon and Magic the Gathering and all of the actual, the games that you can actually play with Pokemon cards that would, a lot of people don't realize that there are games, there are purposes outside of just collecting for these cards. So, there's been a real diversification of, product for everybody and for different purposes, which I think is great, especially because not everybody's into the same thing. So having an option that everybody can kind of get into and enjoy is always a good thing.
And the only game we got to play with cards back in the day is flipping them, try to see who could get it closest to the wall.
Stick them in your bike.
Yeah, and put them in your bike as bike spokes to make the clacking noise as you're riding down the street, which of course destroyed your cards. And now, if you had a Jim Palmer 1969 first edition Topps or whatever it was back then, which now would probably be worth hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands, would be worth nothing almost. And so damaging those cards, would have made it a mess. But again, now, like you were saying, tell me some of the games that you can play with cards. I know you can play Pokemon games with cards because my kids had those. They got them taken away at school a few times, because you're not supposed to take them to school.
So, somewhere, some principal's office, my assistant principal's office has a literal treasure trove of old Pokemon cards hidden away somewhere. So, obviously Pokemon's probably one of the big ones. Magic the Gathering, Lorcana, there's all sorts of, there's now there's a Bo Jackson Tecmo Bowl, everybody.
But is that on a card?
Yeah. So,
really?
That's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't realize that, they collect Pokemon cards for the artwork, but then it's like, okay, well, if you actually look at the card, there's actions, there's rules, there's, multipliers, there's all sorts of supplemental, or information on the card that is actually designed to be used when you're playing the trading card game. But most people just, kind of glance over it and they're like, oh, the artwork's really pretty, but those cards do actually serve a purpose. So
are they like strategy games? I mean, what kind of game is it?
So for the most part, the overall theme or the strategy is you're battling or you are trying to, beat your opponent. So, in Pokemon, it's more of you're trying to eliminate 3 of your opponent's Pokemon by using different attacks, different strategies. Again, like I said, there's action cards. So, you could play a card that maybe allows you to search through your draw deck at will to find certain cards, or, play this card with this other card. And then it does this other thing, which kind of alters the strategy, alters your attack method. So there, kind of the basic premise of like, how does one person, eliminate somebody else's characters or something along those lines. It's just obviously how you go about that, that with the cards is different between the different games.
Okay. And then when it comes to the sports cards, now you have these like super hard to find one of one, which might have a piece of a guy's jersey attached to it or crazy stuff like that. How is that up the level of the game?
Oh, so, since the last time we were on, and, we talked, one of the biggest things in the sports card news is the Shohei Ohtani double logo man double auto, that was put out. And there was it started out like, hey, they said, Topps said, we're going to put this out. It's going to be in a package. People started putting out bounties, $1 million, $2.5 million, $5 million. Finally, somebody came out and said $10 million. Well, somebody actually pulled the redemption card for that down in Florida, and reportedly ended up selling it for about $11 million.
Wow.
So, that's kind of, I would say, probably the biggest advancement, or change from, the vintage collections is that now there are these cards that like are very sought after. They're, like I said, it's, 2 of Shohei Ohtani's actual game used jerseys. He signs in English, he signs in kanji. it's the only one, that's going to, people that really, really want that card or using it as an investment piece, they're going to go after that. There's still like the majority of the people are like, hey, I want to collect my team. I want to collect my guy, that are just more focused on that. But those big chase cards are out there and that drive a lot of the market. Depending, it doesn't matter what the sport is. The Shohei Ohtani one got pulled. Next week, it was the Cooper Flag, card and then that started the whole bounty thing over. And just about every week since then, there's been something in the news or in social media that's like, hey, here's the next big chase. And everybody's going after it.
That is crazy. And you mentioned, on the sports show when we talked before about some of your favorites were the IndyCar or the F1 racers, and that you had that your daughter, you said your daughter was the lucky one. You get her to open packs because she has all the luck.
Yeah, for sure. And, the Formula One cards are it's a very niche market. There's a niche group of collectors, but those cards can go for a premium. But yeah, no, my daughter still has hot hands. She was in the store working all last week, helping out. And, I let her open. I was like, hey, you want to open a box of Pokemon? Cause she's been trying to chase this one Ponyta card. And the second pack she opened, she pulled it. So,
wow.
I was like, that sounds about right.
Wasn't the saying you got to catch them all?
You got to catch them all.
Catch them said or whatever the guy's name was. My kids watched the show and I would like see it peripherally while I was doing other stuff around the house. But you had to catch them all. And
got to catch them all. And you know what? She's been wanting that card. She worked hard for it. I say, hey, here's a box, open it up. And she, of course, pulled the card she was looking for. So that one's going to go in her binder and she's never going to let go of it.
Right. Now, you guys went up to New York, and the last 2 seasons I had worked up there before this year with a team in New Jersey, just outside the city. And Fanatics Fest was huge. A lot of my friends went. And so tell me about, I saw some of your videos, but tell me a little bit about Fanatics Fest and how that went for you guys.
Well, I'll start off with saying, so we took the bus up Friday, hung out. We just attended the event on Saturday.
Okay.
One day at Fanatics Fest is not enough.
So
if anybody that's watching or listening is thinking about going, just plan for a weekend. The convention center, I mean, it's the entire Javits Center. It was outside the Javits Center. If you're into sports or trading cards or collectibles or actual, they had something for everybody. And the number of celebrities or guest appearances and panels and activity, like there was at any given time, there was like 50 things going on. Also planned to be like waiting in line. Like, that a lot of things are very popular, but it was, everything there was so incredible. They had, we went over, they had Disney, a collaboration with, so they had, special T-shirts that you could only get there. We actually got in line and we went and did a photo op with Buzz Lightyear and Woody.
Okay.
So like they actually had like actual Disney representation at the event. There was something for everybody, every sport, all sorts, obviously a lot of a great place to make connections, being a business owner. Went around, talked to some people I know, talked to some people we didn't know. We stopped by the CGC booth. Now we're set up. We're authorized CGC, grading location. So, all sorts of business opportunities if you're going to it for that. But if you're just looking for an amazing event to go to with your family or your kids or by yourself with your friends that also like sports, it's hands down like it is crazy and crazy in the best way. Cause like I said, there's something for everybody and you're not going to be bored.
Yeah. And and World Cup was going on at the same time, which made it even crazier than it had been in years past, because didn't they have like fan areas for World Cup things?
Yeah. So we stayed up the street from like Rockefeller Center, and the entire Rockefeller like plaza was all shut off. Like you had to go through a security checkpoint to get in there because they had a FIFA, World Cup fan experience. But I will say the absolute most craziness that we ran into with all of that is my daughter wanted to go walk through Times Square.
Right.
And we turned the corner. half of Argentina had to been in Times Square.
Wow.
And it was just, they were out there chanting and the flags and, this was before the game. But it was just like, it was wild to see that, like, just that many people in white and blue in the same block. But yeah, Fanatics Fest on top of the World Cup, like New York, there was just, obviously it's New York, there's people everywhere, but the amount of like just sports related stuff going on was kind of amazing.
And I had a couple of friends who were there. They're into wrestlers also. So they had a ton of WWE wrestlers there.
A bunch, yeah.
And they were getting signed things. Are there WWE cards?
There are. There's WWE, AEW, there's UFC, there's boxing. I mean, so all sorts of, fighting, wrestling genres also in trading cards. Yeah. Wow.
So again, it's very cool what you're doing downtown, opening a new shop. Again, give us a website where people can find out more about you.
So the website is www.frederickcardcollective.com. It's more of a landing page, just kind of showing you, some of the stuff that we carry in store. There's no online retail. We want you guys to come visit the store and, come in and meet and hang out and be a space that, you can bring your family to and meet other collectors and, just kind of bring that aspect to downtown. We also have Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, where we post a lot of, we've been posting the update videos. We'll continue to be posting content there and also, upcoming events. We'll be participating in First Saturdays in the Streets is coming up downtown Frederick. So we'll have a booth directly in front of the store for that. We'll be doing, giveaways and all sorts of fun activities for that. So that's kind of the best place is, social media. And then obviously we'd rather prefer you to see you in the store so we can meet everybody face to face.
Absolutely. And the big grand opening is officially on Saturday at what time?
So we're doing a kind of a split opening. Ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce will be Friday at 1 p.m. So we'll have the giant scissors and the ribbon and all that out there with the Chamber. And then the official grand opening will be Saturday at 11 a.m. And then after that, we will be open for regularly posted hours.
Awesome. All right, my friend. Well, I'm going to let you get to it because I know you still have a lot of work to do at the store.
Couple things to finish up this week. Still waiting on some deliveries. So couple little minor things to finish up, but we'll be ready to go by Saturday.
That sounds great. We will definitely, I'll make sure I stop by over there. Maybe we'll do a little break with you guys live from the ribbon cutting on Friday. I think that would be kind of cool.
No, come on by whenever.
All right, Bryan, I appreciate you coming by. Now you've been on both shows and on Danny's show. That is awesome. That's the way it should be. That's right. You got the trifecta down. Enjoy yourself. And it's cool that you're starting a business with your family too. That's another cool thing about this whole thing. So, all right, my friend, I'm going to let you do it. And thank you again for stopping by Studio 401. We're going to take a short break, and I'm going to talk about some depressing stuff. Sorry. After we get back, I'm John Hunt, and this is John's House.
Sponsored by Atlas Wood Floors. Serving the area for more than 34 years. Wood floors, luxury vinyl plank. Anything that you put on your floor, they can handle it. Check out their Google reviews and give them a call today. 301-948-9663. That's 301-948. Wood. Be sure to ask for Jeff Koger or go to atlaswoodfloors.net.
Frederick, if you're craving real Chicago-style flavor, Rosati's is bringing it. From their cheesy, loaded deep dish pizza to crispy tavern-style thin crust, every bite is packed with that classic Rosati's taste. And don't sleep on the steak and cheese sub. Hot, hearty, and seriously satisfying. Rosati's has been serving family recipes since 1964, and now you can get it right here in Frederick. Stop by 911 West 7th Street or order online at rosatispizza.com. Rosati's, keeping it real since 1964.
When you care deeply about Frederick County, you want your generosity to make a meaningful impact. The Community Foundation provides trusted leadership and guidance to connect people who care with the causes they care about, supporting local students, nonprofits, and community needs. Together, we're creating enduring impact and making more possible across Frederick County. Visit frederickcountygives.org.
All right, we are back on your Monday. I tell you what, there are things going on around town. First off, again, thanks for Bryan coming in, talking about the grand opening. But I do want to remind you that coming your way, we've got two big events. I mean, this is going to be a busy week for us here in Studio 401, the Everything Frederick Live Network. Tomorrow, of course, being Frederick Feud at Rockwell Brewery starting at 5 o'clock. And it's sponsored by our friends at Middletown Bank and Ken's Transmissions, Total Car Care, kenstrans.com. And that's going to be a great time because there's a lot of money to be made for some of your favorite charities all around this region. And that's what it's all about, right? Helping out our own community. Good morning, Frederick, Danny, and AJ. They've been working on that for the last almost 2 years, grinding away, growing the network. And now, of course, the entire Everything Frederick Live Network, which includes John's House, Frederick Sports, and all the other cool podcasts that we have here throughout the week, throughout the month. I mean, it has grown exponentially. And I use that word a lot because it fits here. The fact that there are more than 15 podcasts, including 3 daily podcasts here on the Everything Frederick Live Network. So again, you want to know what's going on right here in Frederick, this is the place to come. Whether it's my show, one of my shows, or Danny's show, or one of the other podcasts, you're going to learn about a little bit of everything going on around the region. I'm going to have Bunk Room Chats on the air with me tomorrow. We're going to talk about the struggles for anybody in emergency services. You know, it is, you know, there's mental health issues that need to be addressed. If you're a firefighter, a police officer, you're an emergency worker in the hospital, you're a nurse, a doctor, you know, those kind of things, they end up having some problems that you wouldn't expect. You're thinking, oh, they're making good money and they're working hard and they're saving people's lives and it's good. But there's mental stress that comes with that. And we're going to talk about that on the show a little bit tomorrow. But again, just another example of the different types of shows that you can get here on the Everything Frederick Live Network. And then the other big event that we have going on, and I think when I checked yesterday, there's one ticket left. One single ticket is all that is left for Point Break, the 35th anniversary. That is tomorrow at Warehouse Cinemas. And I'm sorry, that's Wednesday, not tomorrow. That's Wednesday at Warehouse Cinemas on Wednesday, August 19th. One ticket remaining. And it's only $8 because those tickets are just, again, they're just $8. And food, it's $8 Wednesday. So if you're looking for the delicious Krabby pizzas or Krabby fries or, you know, Korean chicken, all of it's $8. Normally $15 or $16. Wednesdays, this Wednesday and next Wednesday, by the way, it was a summertime promotion. After next Wednesday, the $8 Wednesdays go away at Warehouse Cinema. So I highly recommend you take advantage of it. First off, grab that last ticket if it's not already gone, or go check out another movie over there at Warehouse. But we will be out there with some cool prizes and giveaways and trivia before the movie even gets going. So get out there early and enjoy the time with us. So again, wear some beach attire, and we're going to hook you up with the Maryland's scratch-offs. Everybody who wears beach attire, we'll get you something. And again, whatever beach attire you're comfortable with. All right. The weather is supposed to be decent. Actually, some rain, I think, maybe tomorrow. So a good day to be inside with us. But again, we're going to have T-shirts. We're going to have a $25 gift card for food for somebody. I mean, we've got you covered over there at the 35th anniversary of Point Break. So some fun stuff that we have going on. Now that we talked about the fun stuff, all right, let's get serious. I'm going to talk about your tax money for a minute. So don't turn the brain off, because this is a big deal. And you wouldn't think so until I tell you the amount of money that is involved. And the amount of money, the state's already behind with our budget with the current administration. So Friday, the Maryland tax court struck down the state's controversial digital income tax, ruling it unconstitutional, and is now ordering full refunds to major tech companies. Now, this doesn't only affect the major tech companies, but they're, of course, going to be the ones that get the most money back for paying digital ad sales taxes. Now, the law passed in 2021, and it passed because it was a Democratic supermajority. So even after Larry Hogan vetoed it, they overrode the House and the Senate for the state of Maryland, overrode the Republican veto because, again, they had the supermajority. So you can't blame Larry Hogan for this one. Okay. Yes, it did happen during his administration, but this was one of the few times he was not able to reach across the aisle and get everybody to agree because the Republicans, they didn't want this tax. You know, of course, less taxes are a good thing, but this is a little bit crazy. All right. The initial law targeted large tech companies with global gross revenues over $100 million and at least $1 million of that revenue in Maryland tax revenue. So the tax rate ranged from 2.5% to 10% on annual gross revenues from the digital ads in the state. So you're thinking, okay, so what that, Amazon and Apple and Peacock and those kind of companies were going to get charged extra taxes. So what? They're rich. They got it. It doesn't matter. Well, funds were meant to support public schools under the blueprint for Maryland's future. So this money had already been set aside by the state. And the state of Maryland is already $3 billion after having a surplus when Larry Hogan was in office. It's right now, 2.5 years later, it is $3 billion in the hole. So think about that with the current administration, $3 billion in the hole. The court ruled that the taxes violate the Federal Internet Tax Freedom Act, the Commerce Clause, the Due Process Clause, and the First Amendment to the Constitution. So it wasn't one minor thing. They're like, well, we can deal with that. 4 major things this tax law broke already existing federal rules. Again, the Federal Internet Tax Freedom Act, which basically means the internet's still the wild, wild west when it comes to taxes. The Commerce Clause, which is how we do business. The Due Process Clause, because they didn't go through the proper steps to get the bill passed in the first place. And the First Amendment to freedom of speech of the Constitution. Now, all of those things, it was known. I mean, you had to do the math on this one. Maryland must now repay hundreds of millions of dollars plus interest to the companies like Google, Apple, and Peacock TV. They're just 3 of the biggest examples of companies that are going to get large amounts of money back. The loss of these funds, again, adds pressure to Maryland's widening budget gap. We talked about the fact that it's already over $3 billion in 2.5 years. Over $535 million was collected through July. Now, my understanding, it was not spent pending the outcome of this case, but it was money the state was counting on when it planned its future budgets. And now that money's not going to be there. And again, there's already a gap of over $3 billion. And that's not counting this. So it's the gap is going to get worse over the next 2 years. Pretty crazy. Unless there's some major budget changes. Next up for the tax court, it might get worse, by the way. Next up for the tax court is the 3% IT and data service sales and use tax, which was implemented in 2025 and designed, written, and supported by the current governor. So the service sales and use tax, it's on specific data processing, web hosting, and software services. So that might get overturned as well. Another 3% of all that money may be going back to people. The court also wrote this tax was unfair as there is no statewide tax. And think about this. We do advertising like terrestrial radio, like television, like newspapers, like billboards. We do that kind of advertising here at a much more cost-effective price and a much more cost-effective way of doing business. And many, many more, if we've talked about, many, many more likes and watches and views of our content. But there are no statewide taxes on ad services that are not digital, such as those involving billboards, magazines, newspapers, direct mail, and radio and television. So why would you tax people who do advertising on internet? And why would they be the first that you tax? Again, that was another thing that was found unfair by the Maryland Tax Court when they overturned this tax money. This was set up initially by Senate President, a Democrat, Bill Ferguson from Baltimore. He sponsored the bill. Hogan vetoed it. And then again, the supermajority overrode the veto because, again, the supermajority were Democrats while Larry Hogan was in office. And I've talked about this on the show before. Most of the time, Larry Hogan was able to get both sides of the aisle to agree, except on things like this and things that were far left and other tax issues, which is why as soon as the current governor got into office, we slid right into a huge deficit. And that's where we are now. It's pretty crazy. The deficit in 2.5 years is over $3 billion. And now it's going to get worse. So there you have it. I wanted to give you that update as it just happened on Friday afternoon, the state overturning that tax. Things going on more right here in the city of Frederick. And again, that affects the city of Frederick. So we talk about things in Frederick and things that affect us here in the city of Frederick and Frederick County. Now, if you are interested in the growth in the region, there's a planning commission workshop today from 2 until 6 at the City Hall boardroom, or you can watch it. I don't know if this is old cable or what the deal is on Channel 99, or you can go over to 101 North Court Street, watch it live, or you can go to the cityoffrederickmd.com/calendar, and there's a place you can click to watch it live as well. So from 2 till 6, if you're worried or interested in what's going on with the growth in our county, the Planning Commission workshop is from 2 until 6 at the City Hall boardroom today. Also today, the City of Frederick Public Works Department will be conducting repairs to the drive-through areas inside the Carroll Creek Garage. It started this morning, and it will be going, the repair work will be going on throughout the day. Now, while they're working on this, the exit and entrance lanes on the Patrick Street side will be closed. However, the garage will remain open, but you have to enter and exit on the Carroll Creek Way area only. Carroll Creek Way area only. Plan accordingly and watch for signs in the area, especially if you're visiting, working, or shopping in downtown Frederick. Are you going over to get some lunch or whatever? Again, be careful in that area. And one more subject that I wanted to throw out there because it seems to it's bubbling back to the top of our news. And again, this is nationwide, statewide, and right here in our own county. Now, I wanted to bring some numbers out to you just for you to think about. I'm not going to sit here and preach to you, but the numbers tell the story, okay? Certain things like immigration, which is what we're going to talk about, seem to be a problem only for one particular president, because all the other presidents, it was not a problem. People were cheering for them. This is great work. The deportation numbers by president, the last 5 presidents, okay, are a lot crazier than you think. And you'd be surprised when I tell you which presidents had the highest and lowest numbers of actual deportations. All right. The actual physical removal of people in the United States to other countries. And that's not even counting the over 500 million children. I'm sorry, the over 500,000. 500 million would be crazy. It would be like Biden talking about how many people had COVID. The 500,000 children that were lost in the immigration system, over half of them have been found by the current administration. They've been found and returned to their families. That wouldn't be something that a mean administration would do, would it? Would they even bother? Think about that for a second. Now, again, I'm a centrist Republican. Common sense. Start using your noggin and stop following like sheep if you are on that ultra far left, that socialist Democrat left. That's another subject for another day. That's a whole nother subject. I wish I could use Bill Maher clips on the air because Bill Maher's left, but he has been blasting the Democratic Party lately for how far left they've gone. But here's real numbers. Real numbers. All right. The deportation numbers by president. And we've, on the show, we've had clips of Bill Clinton saying, we are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. So we will deport all people who are illegally in the United States of America, who did not follow the current laws that are in place, which, by the way, if you just did that, because nobody's trying to change those laws. I haven't seen any politician step up and say, how about we change the immigration laws that are already in place? Nobody's doing that. Not even the farthest left Democrats are coming out and saying, how about I pass a bill that we change the law first and then we start attacking other people? Nope, don't see that happening. Not at all. So Democrats and Republicans alike that are watching the show, again, take these numbers because the numbers tell the entire tale. Bill Clinton deported over 12.5 million people back to their countries. 12.5 million. Okay? Barack Obama, which a lot of people talk about Barack, 3.1 million people deported back to their home countries. Joe Biden, total of 4.3 million people deported back to their countries. And people were cheering for this. There were no protests in the street. Nobody was throwing, Molotov cocktails at ICE officers. I mean, none of that stuff was happening. None of it was happening. People were patting the ICE agents and, Department of Homeland Services on the back, saying, great job. Way to go, guys. We support you. And now that we have a president who, again, not my favorite guy in the world, not at all, who is actually doing the things that everybody else touted for the last 5 administrations, people are mad all of a sudden. Now, George Bush, he did deport people, 870,000. Okay, so George, I had to preclude the only Republican in that list before Donald Trump. Donald Trump, in his first term, deported 1.2 million. Makes sense. Okay, that is less than any of the other presidents except for George Bush, George W. Bush. And in his second term, 985,000. But if you watched the media, if you watched, terrestrial television media, if you watch NPR, if you watched ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, especially MSNBC, you would think that we're knocking on doors and dragging people out of their houses by the hundreds of thousands every day. It's not the way it works, folks. You see one thing, and again, it's sad, but when you go to catch tuna, once in a while, you're going to catch a dolphin. It's sad that you caught the dolphin and you try to make it right. You try to put the dolphin back in the sea. The same thing with if you catch a person who maybe shouldn't have been deported. Maybe they just didn't have their ID with them that day, but they are licensed or they have their green card. If they've gone through the proper steps, and then you bring them back to the country and you pat them on the back and say sorry. But, we're a democracy it's hard to be a democracy. It's hard to be a nation of laws that we actually try to follow as much as we can. We can't always get it right. No way is a democracy always going to get it right. I wish it was possible, but again, nothing and no one is perfect. But again, and then also you got to count these numbers. But again, Donald Trump didn't physically deport the 2.2 million who left voluntarily. They were given the option to leave and then go follow the proper steps, and then they could come back into the country. So 2.2 million people chose on their own. They were not forced out. They were not threatened. Well, sort of. I guess you could say they were threatened a little bit, that if you don't follow the rules and we catch you, we're going to deport you. Duh. I mean, really, it's that simple. Follow the law. Okay? I hear And I'm not as much into it, and I'd love to learn more, and I'll be watching the town hall that's coming up. But, when Danny and AJ are talking about the flock cameras, people say all the time, well, if you didn't do anything wrong, it wouldn't matter. You got nothing to hide. Well, it's the same thing for immigrants. Think about that. If they didn't have anything to hide, they wouldn't be afraid of ICE, would they? Ding. Think about it. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth, no matter which party you're in, if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't work like that. That's not how our Constitution works. That's how common sense works. Forget the Constitution. That's common sense. Okay? Again, during the Trump administration, 1.2 million first term, 985,000 so far in the second term through the end of the month of July, and self-deported and are going to go back and follow the right process, 2.2 million left voluntarily so that they could become American citizens. Again, we are a nation of immigrants, all of us. Not one of us, unless you're a Native American, is literally a full-fledged 100% every generation, unless you were born and raised here from, the days of the Native Americans. We all came from somewhere else in our past. All of us came from somewhere else. Whether we came from England or whether we came from, Japan or whether we came from Africa or whether we came from Russia or, anywhere in the world, anywhere else in the world. We are all immigrants, whether it's first generation, second generation, third generation. We all came from somewhere. And our parents did what the laws were at that time and became citizens. And anyone who wants to become a citizen and follow the process and work and get a job and at least know enough English to communicate, that is the way it's supposed to work. I mean, that's why we have a Statue of Liberty sitting out there in the harbor of New York City. That's what that's for. We welcome people who want to become American citizens, and we should, as long as they follow the necessary laws it takes to become an American citizen. Simple, right? Not so much if you're, Democratic Socialist, or if you just happen to be against the current president, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, if you're just against the current president. Now, again, I've said it before, I don't believe everything this guy does, but he is the president. People voted for him. They elected him into office, okay, legally. Just take a moment. Just stop. Just stop and think about where we are and how we got here as a nation and how over the last 5 administrations, things have changed so drastically. How can we fix it? Just use common sense. It's really that simple. Follow the laws that are in place and use common sense. All right? Something to think about. I wasn't even going to go that deep in it. I was just going to give you the numbers, but I am a little bit passionate about that subject. So I thought we'd throw it out there. So an interesting show today. We went from card collecting to taxes to deportations. But think about the things that we talked about. Think about that when you're voting for whoever your elected officials are. Again, use common sense. And when you go out and you vote, you should. Even if you don't have somebody you truly believe in, use your own conscience when you're voting. Vote your own conscience. Do your homework, vote your conscience. It's that simple. All right. We'll be back at 4 o'clock with some sports fun on Frederick Sports. And the keys, all of our teams are looking good. The Orioles are making a run back to the top. They are actually in a wild card spot all by themselves for the first time since the second week of April. Who'd have thunk it? And they're still a couple games under 500. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Keys. They're about to go on the road for 6 days and then one more home series before we talk playoff baseball. NFL is back. It's about to be a crazy time in sports. So John's House is going to be coming your way at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Thanks to everybody involved here in the Everything Frederick Network. Dougie working hard behind the board today. We appreciate that as well. And again, if you'd like to be part of the show in any way, whether you'd like to be a sponsor, whether you would like to be on the show as a guest, or whether you'd like to start your own podcast, hit me up directly. The email is rockthewave13@gmail.com. Like and subscribe below. Click the little heart. Leave your comments. We love to see what you're thinking. Or again, just reach out to me directly. rockthewave13@gmail.com. Have a great rest of your Monday. My name is John Hunt. And remember, you are what you watch and listen to. And you've been watching John's House.
Thanks for stopping by John's House. Make sure you share, like, and comment because this conversation is better when Frederick is part of it. Tune in every weekday for more local stories, real issues, community voices, and the people helping shape Frederick. We'll see you next time.
This episode is a proud production of the Everything Frederick Live Podcast Network. Your home for Frederick's best podcasts, streaming daily on YouTube.